So Tara, what's your earliest memory of visiting a library?
The earliest memory I have of visiting a library is the school library at Torquay Elementary School. So I grew up in Victoria on Vancouver Island, and I went to this public school that had a beautiful little library just absolutely filled with books. And by age 10 I was sneaking in and grabbing the Stephen King novels. I was a morbid young person at age 10, and Stephen King actually made me want to be a writer. His storytelling was very compelling to me. And I started writing Stephen King style novelettes for my classmates in school. And they'd ask for the handwritten chapter that featured their own grisly demise. And the first story, the one that my dad found in the attic, written age 10, was called Black and White Doom. Doom, of course, seeming like a cool word when you're 10 years old. The funniest thing in that one, I think, is the mention of a dismantled hand. I meant dismembered, but I was 10 and I didn't know the difference. So that was my not so auspicious beginning as an author, I suppose.
Fantastic. And who did you move on to after Stephen King?
I think it just broadened straight out from there, but Stephen King was the first one. I guess it was the 80s, and he had movies coming out as well. There was like Cujo and Christine and Carrie, all the big blockbusters. And for me, it was like the height of exciting taboo to be able to kind of get these books from the library and read them with my torch on at night under the covers.
Under the covers. Access to free spaces, freedom of information, access to information, and those sorts of things are key principles of libraries. Absolutely. What do you see as the ongoing role of libraries in this area?
Well, libraries are about bringing the community together to free public spaces where there's incredible amounts of information, storytelling, and culture available. And I think in today's world where things are increasingly privatized, we need to be really protecting our public assets, and libraries are a huge cultural asset for Australia and for each of the countries I visit. You know, I think the smartest countries are the ones where they recognize the importance of libraries and recognize that this kind of storytelling, the educational space is available in libraries, and the access to worlds beyond these walls and beyond borders are what we can find in these spaces, and they're not necessarily something you can get on Google. You know, they're not necessarily something you can get in private spaces. It's something very unique and something to be cherished and protected.
So you mentioned Google, and I know that you really take your research really seriously. You really immerse yourself in researching your books, the characters, and the activities that are going to happen.
Yes.
Can you share with us your most, unexpected experience in undertaking that sort of research?
Well, it's not Google, that's for sure. I mean, online spaces do have their place in research, but I'm a bit of a method writer, so I'm known for having been set on fire for research, choked unconscious for research. Don't try this at home. Always with experts around and in the safest possible circumstances. But I've gone out in squad cars, I've gone to morgues, I've seen autopsies, I've been to the FBI Quantico facility and been to crime scenes and out with police. I've written a new character called Billy Walker, who's a private investigator in the 1940s. And I have my private investigator credentials from the Australian Security Academy because I want to get as close as I can to the characters and the experiences in my books. So I have that knowledge, mostly because I feel as a writer it's very inspiring, but also readers are smart.
Yes.
Crime readers are smart, and you can't pull the wool over their eyes. So the more authentic you can be, the more authentic the experience is for the reader. And they can trust that the author actually is giving them a story that's got real meat to it.
So we have lots of aspiring authors coming here to the State Library of Queensland. Is there any other advice that you would give to someone who wants to be a super author as well?
I would say my most simple advice about writing is to write. I mean, actually just write. Make sure that you do it. So don't write it right, just write it and make it right later. Understand that it's not like this sort of quick, this very fast-moving world we have now of information where you tweet something, it's out there, it flows through this feed. Novels and books take a long time. They need to be approached meticulously and patiently. And it's okay to get some words on the page and know that you can go back and correct them or change them. So understand it's a long process. You're going to live with that work for a long time, and you don't have to get it right the first time. So don't let that that sense of needing to be perfect in every word in private when you're first writing your book, don't let that give you writer's block. Just give yourself the freedom to be creative. Yeah, don't write it right, just write it.
And you can just always go back, can't you?
Absolutely, and literally you will.
And there's always the
novels,
editors.
Yeah, that's right, and novels take years. Most of my books take 1.5 to 2 years to write. So I have a lot of time with that work to perfect it, to hone it. And to me, writing is a little bit like sculpting. It's not a paint by numbers or, a kind of A to Z. It's actually taking a lump of clay and shaping it until I can see that it's done. So there's a lot of changes in editing that take place while I'm writing a book. And that's why I say don't let that writer's block get you by feeling, I think if any of us figured we had to have every word perfect as we first put it down, we'd never begin the process.
So I've heard a lot of authors speak about the way they approach their writing, and some treat it very much like a job. It's 9 o'clock you start, you write for so many hours. Is that how you go about your writing, or have you got more flexibility? Or?
Life gets in the way of plans as far as my experience goes. Some writers are very meticulous in their scheduling and their routines. I'm not very routine oriented. I have a motto that is, life is too short to live the same day twice, and I do live by that. So I'm extremely dedicated and disciplined, but not routine oriented. I throw myself at a project and keep going at it until it's complete. So perhaps it's my enthusiasm and passion for the project that gets me through it, rather than specific sort of formats and scheduling. Having said that, you do have to go about it with a professional eye. You have to think, I'm not just writing this for myself. I'm going to be putting it into the world. Am I articulating myself well? Am I wasting time? You have to be kind of hard on yourself sometimes during the process. But the most important thing initially is just to give yourself the creative freedom to go for it. And again, you can always go back later and refine.
Well, Tara, it's been fantastic to talk with you this evening. Thank you for coming to the State Library of Queensland, and I know that everyone is looking forward to hearing you this evening, and I hope you enjoy your stay in Brisbane.
I'm sure I will. Thank you so much.